Hello, this is the RPG Pundit, the final boss and internet shitlords. My welcome back to all the members of the shitlord army, or to anyone who's just checking us out for the first time. And if you are, please, if you like the video, please hit subscribe and hit the notification bell. Any of you who aren't seeing the community posts are missing stuff because you're missing pictures of Meatball and you're missing interesting material. And I even did for the first time, the first ever bit of text that I have published outside of myself, from Baptism of Fire is in one of the community posts. And it's the random lunatic table. So I thought you'd find that interesting. So be sure to check all that out and check out all of my products. Today I have here my thinnest core rule book, Star Adventure, which is I think 32 pages, and the Invisible College, my thickest core rule book, that has I think 430 pages, something like that. So something for you to look at. Check out all my stuff. The links are on the description below. Today, I am reminded of a popular saying. I don't know if it's Spanish in general or if it's a Uruguayan saying. But the saying is, cuando no es por la sequía, es por las inundaciones, which means that when the drought isn't to blame, it's the flood that's to blame, And so it's always one or the other. And we've had for a couple of months now, very little controversial news popping up in terms of Wizards of the Coast or anything like that. And then suddenly today, I get wind of two different articles that point out stuff that I really want to do a video about, both of them. So I'm probably going to do two videos. I'm gonna do one today, and the next one is going to come out in probably about 2 days later, which is there'll still be a gap. I'm not turning into the Jeremy from the Quartering. I'm not going to do 5 videos in a day or even 2 videos in a day, but we're gonna there might be a lesser gap than there usually is, right? And I guess today, first, I should focus on the one that I think is of wider interest, which is the one that concerns Wizards of the Coast. Okay, so it has now come out that there's a very good chance that Wizards of the Coast, that you remember when it wasn't Cynthia Williams. I don't know if it was Kyle Brink or whoever, when they were interviewing them about, is there going to be AI in the 1D&D VTT? And they're like, oh, no, we're not planning to do anything with AI. Or something. Well, guess what? They're planning to do stuff with AI because it's been revealed that Hasbro has bought out this company that is specialized in AI and using AI for gaming, and it's called Explored. Hey, it's Meatball. Meatball's doing some exploring of her own right now. And so it's very clear by what they never mentioned D&D explicitly, but apparently the text of it made it seem really, really obvious that this is what it was going to be for. And they were even talking about direct interactions between, an AI DM and player, right? So, and how you can have interactions in real time with this AI that they want to have. So it seems like basically the VTT is going to have AI. Now, are AI going to make are they going to write books? I don't know. I don't know that's really evident, but it does say they're going to use AI to make material and to make interactions with players that could be happening in real time. That is, it's not just to use AI to pre-write something that you will then be able to run. It's like the AI will run something, right? Or will actually just run reactions to what you're prompting it that you want to do. Okay. So basically, the Wizards people were lying when they said that they weren't going to do that. And they are going to do it. And it seems, I mean, I understand why they would want to do it, but I can see some potential downsides as well, right? They want to do it, first of all, because they think it's going to add a level of interactivity and features that'll keep people more hooked. One of the big problems with D&D, as opposed to, say, if you're going online and playing a game by yourself. Say, I don't know, you're playing Diablo, you're playing it solo, right? So there, you might end up spending, I don't know, 22 hours playing Diablo or something, right? And that's okay because it's just you going through the dungeon or whatever. In a multiplayer online game, you might have your group of friends, right? But let's say they're not around. You're just going to go and join some other group of people, right? You're going to go find the guild or whatever the hell you do in those things, and you're going to get a group of people, and you're going to be playing. Okay, but D&D groups don't really work like that as a rule, right? Like it's less easy to play outside of your group, and so that's one of the barriers that they have there. And I'm sure that they're going to have things on VTT like where people are going to be able to look for other players or look for running games or whatever. But people all have different tastes, and there'll be lots of there'll be complications to that. Okay, so Cynthia Williams desperately wants to make D&D more valued, right? As in making more money for Hasbro. And I think obviously the longer you're playing, the more you're playing, the more likely you are to engage in the microtransactions, the more likely that you are to stick around and to spend more money on D&D and therefore monetize it in the way that she wants, right? So one of the big things that it strategically makes sense to keep in mind is say, well, okay, it's one thing if you've got a group of 5 people that get together once a week and play a game on the virtual tabletop. It's a different thing if you can get those 5 people to be there like every day, like that changes everything. So, but they're not going to be there at the same times or at the same days because they can't really arrange it. So what you need is to have a way for each of them individually to be there. And what I think, in other words, what all of this is leading to is that they're trying to transform the D&D experience, as in how it's going to be, how they would like everyone to play D&D is going to be on a virtual tabletop, and the majority of the time solo play with an AI DM, okay? Because that's the biggest barrier to solo play, right? Is that you can't play on a virtual tabletop solo literally just by yourself, right? You need to have at the very least one player and one DM. The DM is the linchpin that is the biggest obstacle, because you're never going to have enough DMs for all the players to play solo, and that immediately jumps the conditions from just one person logging on to needing to have 2 people log on and be on at the same time and continue to be on at the same time. If you can change that DM role into a computerized AI role, then it's going to work, right? And they were talking about how they're also going to streamline stuff, and I was like, well, what do they mean by that? So my first thought was that, well, obviously, I guess that means that maybe they're going to, that even though an AI would very easily understand the mathematical parts of the rules of D&D, they wouldn't necessarily understand how to handle the specific rules in ways that would make sense. Like, part of the barrier is not just what can the AI learn, because the AI can learn almost anything, right? The difficulty is how much can the AI interpret something in a way that will make sense to a human being, right? And that a human being will answer what the human being wants, rather than, because it's one thing if you have all the facts. I don't know, let's say you have all the facts about trains, all of them, and everything about trains, right? You get someone asking you something about a train, and maybe if they're asking you something very specific, like a schedule or something, then you can tell them that, right? But if they're asking you something a little more vague, then the AI might not know whether the information it's supposed to give is about what time a train shows up, or how the train's engine works, or what type of leather is on the seats of the first class compartment, right? It won't know that, and so then that's where it gets complicated. Eventually it's going to get better, right? But so I thought, okay, maybe this is a rules thing, but I think also what it really is going to be is a choices thing, and that's where it hit me. Okay, right. They want the AI to be the DM. Obviously, the AI as the DM is a tough call, right? It won't act. It would never be able to act, or at least don't say never. Sooner or later, we're going to get to the point where you're going to get online, you're going to see an image of a person, and you're not going to know if that person is a human being that's living somewhere, or if that person is somebody who doesn't exist anywhere. It's an avatar created in a perfect video simulation of somebody who doesn't exist, expressing the voice of an artificial intelligence that is so advanced that it'll be almost impossible to tell that it's not a real person. That'll happen, but it won't happen yet, right? So right now, what'll happen is that if you're gonna have the DM role played by an AI, by a computer essentially, it's going to have to make much more limited choices. Sort of like how when Dungeons and Dragons was initially transplanted into the world of video games, you didn't have this like open thing where you can do whatever you want, right? It turned into a game where you had to select choices, right? And then the computer reacted on those choices. That's why role-playing games on computer are different than role-playing games in person. So, you in a role-playing game in person, you get to a village, you can literally do whatever you want to do, right? There are unlimited options, as long as within the limits of what your character can do. But if you're in a computer game and you get to the village, well, there are certain doors that you can knock on that you're going to get a reaction to. There's certain shops that'll have certain things. There's certain people you can talk to, but there are other, you can't just type in, okay, I'm gonna set the town drunk on fire, right? At least in most games, you can't do that, right? So it's that won't work. So that becomes a barrier, right? And so I think that what they're saying when they say that they're going to like streamline options to create an experience for the player is basically they're going to have an AIDM that will have not quite as limited as like the old timey, video games where you get to the town and so on, but obviously not nearly as open as what an actual human being who can, ad lib in a way that is actually human will be capable of doing. This leads to a real question though. Like here's the offside of this. First of all, is at what point does this stop looking anything like actual D&D? Right, because I mean, okay, so they'll still have hit points and stuff, but you have hit points in Diablo. That doesn't make it, at least I assume you do. I don't remember, but that doesn't make it D&D, right? And if you're suddenly not playing in person, not playing with people, you're playing alone with a computer that has certain options, quite a lot of options possibly, but can't let you do anything the way a DM can, right? Or that you try to do anything. At what point are you playing a completely different game, right? This is the thing that I had predicted already, like even before they started talking about adding AI into the mix, is that there's a very real possibility that Dungeons and Dragons, as owned by Hasbro, is going to just stop being what it was before. They're transitioning it to become something else. It is now going to be a trans product from having been a tabletop RPG to being a virtual tabletop engine for online adventuring or something like that, right? It's going to get to a point where what you're looking at there and you say, that's not an RPG. That's something different, right? Just like story gaming is not RPG. A story game is not an RPG. It's something that looks similar but is different. Miniature wargaming, not an RPG. It looks similar in some ways, has some differences. It doesn't, they don't have the same, and they don't have the same goals. That's one of the biggest issues, right? Like a story game, a war game, an RPG, and now perhaps a virtual tabletop computer game may not all have the same goals. I suspect that as soon as you get rid of the interaction between people and the ability to do anything, then you get rid of the potential for immersion. So if immersion is lost as the goal, what you're doing there is not an RPG. That's one of the key aspects. So like it starts being a totally different hobby. I think that's their biggest. Well, I mean, it's their biggest possible risk, but it's only a risk if it doesn't work. There might be a ton of people that actually want that, and that they don't actually want to keep playing D&D the way they played it before. Who knows? The point is, though, that Wizards, once again, was full of crap when they were claiming that they weren't going to use AI. I can imagine there's going to be some people, AI is a funny thing because there's people on both sides of the ideological divide that are for it or against it, or that, I don't know how many people are like for it, like rah, rah, let's go. Maybe the nerds will want to bring on the singularity, but there's people that are against it, like deeply against it for different reasons, right? Whether because they think we're all going to be living in Terminator, or because they think they're all going to lose their jobs, right? That are deeply against AI. And then there's other people who are like, well, it's inevitable. It has to happen. I don't know. I don't know which one, what's going to go on there. But the point is that they're not necessarily left or right. So I think that there's going to be a strange new divide there between pro and anti-AI forces as it relates to RPGs or other stuff like that. I guess that's everything I have to report on this for the moment. I'm going to be curious to see what people's reactions are because this came out basically today, and see if there's some hot takes, and if there are, I will report them later. But probably you won't see those until after you see my next video, which is on a different topic. So yeah. And anyways, if you like this video, please share it anywhere you think people will find it interesting or might get pissed off at it. And if you want to support me, please check out my products. Right? I don't have subscriptions. I don't have super chats. But what I do have is like 120 different books. And if you include all of my RPG Pundit Present PDF magazine series, you'll find something in all of those products, whether it's the Pundit Presents issues, whether it's the Invisible College, whether it's something like the Old School Companion 2 that has like 26 adventures that are better than anything that the humans working for Wizards have written, and definitely would be better than anything an AI could do, because they're not generic adventures, they're not generic modules. I'm sure an AI would very easily be able to create like 1,000 basic dungeon modules, and a lot of them could probably be good. But they'd have a lot harder chance writing the type of adventures that are here that are based on medieval legends, folklore, stories, songs, that are then also interposed with the necessities that they have to fit into an RPG format, right? Or specifically OSR format. So yeah, if you want to find some really interesting adventures that you can use in any OSR setting, especially Lion and Dragon, I guess, but it can be anything as long as it's vaguely medieval, right? Check out the Old School Companion 2. Check out World of the Last Sun if you want truly wacky Gonzo stuff, which I guess AI might be pretty good at. Although they would probably end up being very irrational Gonzo, but I mean that's what Chalt's there for. So Star Adventure, science fiction, space opera specifically. You're going to find something in my books that you're going to want to look at. My books are made for playing, and they are not too expensive. And when you pick one up, it's like you're giving me a tip, a super chat, a Patreon, whatever. But you're also getting something in return. Speaking of Patreon, if you've bought all my books, or you have no interest in RPG books, but you like the cut of my political jib or whatever, and you want to support me, I do have a Patreon channel. Or a Patreon link. I guess it's in the description. I don't do anything with the Patreon. I know you don't get extra content from it, though maybe at some point in the future you might, but at the moment, I'm not promising anything. And it's just a place where you can support me if you want to make like a regular donation to help me in my fight against the woke. And you like it, then great. I mean, feel free to use it. But of course, my advice is pick up my products. That's everything for now. We'll see you in a couple of days. Currently smoking Lorenzetti, Horn, Oversized, plus Argento Roots.